Marie Laveau wasn't just born in New Orleans. During the syncretic religion's heyday between the 1820s and 1860s, she was New Orleans. No other citizen in the port city's 300-year existence has so represented the unique and mysterious vibe of the town, nor gripped the public's imagination. Although her biography is littered with contradictions and codswallop due to a lack of verifiable information, this has only served to keep the flame of Marie Laveau burning in the Big Easy. So much of her life story is wrapped up in legend, fabrication, and the unknowable that even her birth year is disputed. Generally given as either 1794 or 1801, the New York Times 1881 obituary marked her age at death as 98, meaning she must have been born way back in 1783. 10 September is recognized as Laveau's birthday. The Doyenne of Voodoo is an important icon of the Crescent City. Her family tomb is visited by throngs of people led by tour guides. Tributes are left at her gravesite and the reputed location of her ramshackle cottage at Rue Sainte-Anne in the French Quarter, a humble abode built by early settlers from wood, is commemorated with a plaque. How Marie Laveau rose to prominence is a fascinating, albeit murky, confluence of religion, race, class, society, and power. Born to a white man named Charles Laveau, a Creole plantation owner, and his mixed-race mistress, Marguerite Darkentel, said to be Choctaw, Native American, and African, Marie grew up uneducated, but free from the perils and horrors of slavery. The famous 1835 portrait of the Voodoo Queen as a middle-aged adult shows her as light-skinned and wearing an African taignon. Yet, there are arguments over the accuracy of the painting. Described as beautiful and alluring, some people who knew her in life said that she could pass for white, while others claim she was dark-skinned. It almost goes without saying that it cannot have been both. In 1823, she married a fellow Jean de Couleur Libre, free person of color, named Jacques Berry, who came to America through the influx of Saint-Domingue free men, enslaved people, and traders fleeing the uprising and battles against colonial France. Berry and Laveau were wed at St. Louis Cathedral by Pierre Antoine. Settling in the French Quarter a year into their marriage, Berry vanished one day without a trace, leaving his new wife perplexed as to his whereabouts. She insisted that he had not died and not walked out on her. Berry never was located. Her next union was more rewarding and successful, with Paris out of the picture a year later. In 1824, she was domiciled in common law marriage with Captain Christophe Dominique Glapillon, with whom she would stay until his death in 1855. During their marriage, Laveau gave birth to 15 children, though sadly, nearly all of them died from yellow fever or other outbreaks that plagued New Orleans due to the city's poor standard of sanitation and terrible living conditions. It is also in this period, the 1820s, that Laveau is believed to have started her ascent to the top. It is claimed that she was tutored by such noted figures associated with the city's underground religion as Dr. John, the medicine man, an ex-enslaved person, and Marie Salope, who later became somebody to cast aside, something Laveau did quite viciously in order to send a message to others thinking about usurping her. How accurate this is remains unknown, though detractors have picked up on Dr. John's success in selling trinkets to white folk as being the impetus for Laveau to try her hand at it too. In this decade, she may have developed intimate knowledge of voodoo and root work. And despite her harsh treatment of rival kings and queens, Laveau cultivated a public persona for kind-heartedness and virtuous acts. For the next 30 years or more, Laveau popularized voodoo among New Orleans citizens, both rich and poor, all the while remaining a devout Catholic. Was she, then, a legitimate religious figure, or a scam artist looking to bleed gullible types of a buck or two? Laveau's occupation as a hairdresser put her in a unique position. From local gossip to insider info on the echelons of New Orleans elites, the Voodoo Queen was able to learn everybody's business and use it to her advantage. As a pillar of the community and icon to the superstitious, she became the go-to person for advice, spells, and potions. In terms of the development in Louisiana voodoo, Laveau promoted Catholic icons, incense, and prayers alongside African-based totems such as the use of gree-gree and voodoo dolls. She sold mojos and other trinkets supposedly imbued with voodoo powers. The New York Times obituary described the cottage on Rue St. Anne as quaint, with a broken fence and trees drooping over the property as if at any moment branches would pierce the abode and send it crumbling. The author painted a picture of humbleness bordering on destruction. Laveau, though, received her guests with pomp, cooking for them and making sure their ills and worries were listened to with a sympathetic ear or banished with magic, which seems a world away from lurid newspaper stories of naked dancing, serpent worship, and satanic hexes. What ultimately emerges from Laveau's success as both agony aunt and voodoo queen was her personal charm and skills in dealing with people from all walks of life. Another facet of Laveau's popularity, which was by no means all-encompassing, as many feared her as much as liked her, according to legend, were her excursions to nurse people during outbreaks of cholera and yellow fever. This voodoo Florence Nightingale act even extended to visiting condemned men in prison, yet she commanded respect too. Children were kept in line by mention of her name as if she was the boogeyman. And it was known around New Orleans that Laveau knew everybody's dirty little secrets and where bodies were figuratively buried, gathering the information seemingly by a mixture of bullying servants with voodoo threats or plain old bribery. How she made gains from this knowledge is unknown, as she lived her life in the hovel of Rue St. Anne and was hardly living it up in one of the city's grand Spanish mansions. The first recorded instance of Laveau's connection with voodoo occurred in 1850 when she and fellow Jean de Goler Libre named Rossini Dominique went to court to ask for the return of a statue confiscated during a ritual, one that had been raided by the law because there were concerns of freed people mixing with enslaved people away from Congo Square, the designated spot in the city where they were allowed to mingle on Sundays. The report is intriguing because it looks as if Laveau was serving as a go-between in the community. A fine was paid and the statue returned, though not to Laveau. In 1859, she made the papers again in the city when a complaint was made describing her as a hag who was disturbing the peace with her voodoo rituals. As singing, dancing, and drumming were involved, there would have certainly been a lot of noise. Holy figure, or charlatan, who used blackmail more than black magic to get her way, Laveau was, and always will be, a controversial figure. Folk to this day leave offerings of beads, booze, flowers at the tomb of Laveau in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. In the second cemetery, St. Louis No. 2, there is a crypt known as the Voodoo Vault, which is also believed to be her resting though quite how the rumor started is unknown, as the resting place is most definitely to be the one in Cemetery Number 1. X's are made with red brick left as part of a devotional message and request for Laveau to make their wishes come true. However, voodooists consider the act disrespectful and damaging to the crypt structure. Even so, these small acts of devotion are a powerful testament to Laveau's legacy in the Big Easy. Le Grand Zombi is a major figure of veneration in Louisiana voodoo who came to prominence during the reign of Marie Laveau. It is claimed to have also been the name of Marie Laveau's pet snake, which she thought would aid in the theater of her ceremony. The serpent took part in one of her famous dancing rituals, held every year at night on St. John's Eve, the 23rd of June, in the bayous or on the shoreline at nearby Lake Pontchartrain. Laveau would take Le Grand Zombi out of a box, let it lick her face, from which she drew power, stand on the box, and pass on the snake's power to her eager followers. Into a cooking pot, voodooists would throw offerings, anything from food to animals, as Laveau chanted, Lap Vini, Le Grand Zombi, Lap Vini pour faire gris-gris, translated, he is coming, the great zombie, he is coming to make gris-gris charms. Other times, she would declare the more unnerving, Lap Vini pour faire mourir, translated, he is coming to kill. A male participant would then hand a small coffin to Laveau, and the contents of the boiling cauldron would be passed around and sipped. Hey y'all, listen, High Velocity Philosophy is a brand new channel, and I'm just going to do whatever I want on here. And if you like this kind of content, I really appreciate it if you liked, shared, and subscribed to this channel, alright? Peace.